Okay, getting close to finishing Lorem's run here, but first, let's meet with Kevin. That must be him. Hello. Good to see you again. This is where you live, huh? For the time being. That's pretty nice for a small town like this one. Are you not from around here? No, I'm just here for the job until the next semester starts. Basically, I'm trying to drum up interest for the college and see if there's anyone around who'd like to apply for it. How's that working out? Well, I haven't actually met that many candidates out here so far. For a town like this one, it's typical for the young people to go into an apprenticeship to prepare for their future job rather than go to college. But if there's anyone willing, we want to find them. Even out here? Yeah, there's always a need for more highly educated people in the cities as they expand. Cities? That's the first I hear of cities in this world. I thought this town was where it's at. Then you've really been missing out. This town isn't really all that special when it comes down to it. I've lived in the city for most of my life. Of course, that's also where the college is. I don't think they'd build one out here anyway. I'd think as an ambassador they'd show me around a bit, but apparently that isn't the case. Your visit is a bit of a political issue right now. The bottom line is that it's also for your own protection. Everything surrounding the portal has been a well-kept secret. People know that it exists and that we currently have human visitors, but the exact location is only known to those who live here. If it ever got out, I don't think this town could face the ensuing torrent of tourists trying to catch a glimpse of you. Buford says, being the only fluff derg, I'm pretty sure Kevin is also another backer dragon. Probably. Makes sense. Travel has been restricted as well. There are strict conditions for people who want to come out here. The only reason I was allowed to is because this isn't the first time I'm doing this job. The people here already know me. Heck, I didn't even know this was the town in question until I arrived and heard everyone talking about you. Well, I'm glad they are taking this matter seriously. They certainly are. You know, I wonder how much you had to pay in order to get into the game like this. You think they would have allowed a raccoon dragon? I'd like to know more about these cities you talked about, though. Well, I can only speak about the one I live in, but what do you want to know? Actually, in hindsight, I'm kind of glad that I didn't know about backing this game. Because at the time this game was being made, I was still Dragon. Wouldn't be very fun to have my old self in this game instead of my new self. Anyway, I only really have this town as a point of reference, so why don't you tell me about what's different? Gee, that's only pretty much everything. Out here, living in general seems to be a lot cheaper than it is in the city, and there is much more room for everything. There are green spaces, fields, parks and farms. You don't really see that in the city. People are more laid back, and there is a bigger sense of community as everybody knows everyone, which can be both good and bad. In regards to my newer self, Beer Force says, I would hope they would be willing to change it in a patch. Possibly. And considering how inclusion was just now an important theme with Lorem and acceptance, yeah, they probably would change it. Anyway, what were we saying? People are more laid back, and there is a bigger sense of community as everybody knows everyone, which can be both good and bad. For example, rumors travel fast and survive well in areas like this one. In the city, you can just make new friends when that happens, but out here, a few well-placed stories could mean social death. Sadly, even in a small town like the one I live in, things aren't really quite like that. I mean, good in regards to the social death situation, but everybody around here is just kind of afraid of everybody, it seems like. You don't really know your neighbors anymore. Anyway, in the city, it's also much more crowded. Buildings pretty much line the streets, and there isn't much room for anything else. I wonder if Dragon Cities have skyscrapers. But with a clubbing scene and opportunities for socializing, there's no shortage of potential friends. There are also many different jobs and education opportunities that you wouldn't find out here. Like what? Creative jobs of all kinds, for example. Game designers, writers, artists, that kind of stuff. The same goes for teaching positions in those areas as well. For example, if I wanted to learn how to write a romance novel, I can find a course for that easily. Out here, this would be a lot more difficult. You know what I mean? Yes, absolutely. In a way, it feels like you're always busy when you live in the city. The streets are usually filled with people trying to get somewhere. Of course, this is also a side effect of the small apartments, as people tend to go out more often and seek entertainment elsewhere. Which do you prefer? In the end, I suppose I prefer the city. That's not to say that I think one is better than the other. Different strokes for different folks and all that. I myself definitely prefer more rural areas. But that's largely because I would not enjoy driving around in the city. Or even riding in a taxi cab. I get nervous just being in heavy traffic. I suppose that wouldn't necessarily be an issue in this world, though. As far as I'm aware, cars do not exist, so don't necessarily have to worry about car wrecks and traffic signals and that sort of thing. You know, out here, people would probably laugh at some of the things I do in my free time, but in the city, you get enough like-minded people to even get conventions going about all kinds of things. What conventions do you go to? I like all kinds of geeky things. Cartoons, comics, and all that stuff. I've even written a few fanfics before too, since I can't really draw all that well. Aren't cartoons usually for kids? Again, I say, this me is so not me. When I named my character, I should have put a question mark at the end of my name. Okay, Kiba, you keep saying spork whenever I'm talking about me and myself in this game. What do you mean by spork? That's like saying books are usually just for kids. Cartoons are just a medium. Of course, there are some that are aimed at kids, but there are cartoons for adults as well. Cartoons for adults. I see. Not like that. Well, I mean, there are cartoons like that, but that wasn't what I was talking about. In any case, what else falls under geeky interests for you? Okay, Kiba says, not the sharpest tool in the shed, so your character is rated a spork. Gotcha. Let's see. I guess you could say I'm kind of a techie. I do like following news about technology and hearing all about new developments in the industry. You must be pretty interested in the portal, then. Oh, right. I didn't even consider that I could actually go there and check it out. If I knew where it was, that is. I could show you. If you did that, you'd be like the coolest human I've ever met. I suppose you'd be that by default, since you're also the only human I've ever met, but you get the idea. Let's just go. I'll be right behind you. Cool. Hanging out at a portal with a fuzzy friend. There it is in all its glory. That looks so much cooler than I thought it would. Halt! State your business. I just wanted to show the portal to my friend here. Well, friend, you can look, but don't touch anything. And no photos either. Do I look like I have a camera? Well, you could be hiding something in your fur. Are you going to give me a pat down? I don't think so. What's that, though? Flyers for our Midwest institution. I could give you one if you're interested in going back to school. No, thank you. I'm quite happy with my current job, which is protecting the portal from any unsavory individuals. What's up with you, Sebastian? Just doing my job, Erika. He could be a spy. Really? There has been a lot of interest in the portal from the cities. They have made us offers, but for now, we're not doing anything until we see how your visit turns out. In the end, it's just a political power struggle. Small towns like us have to protect our interests. In the process, reinforce the stereotype of country bumpkins being conspiracy nuts. You know I could arrest you, right? Wait. Oh, I wasn't paying attention. That was Kevin, who is speaking of country bumpkins being conspiracy nuts. You know I could arrest you, right? Respect is a two-way street. Just saying. Trust is good, but control is better. It's just a matter of perspective. Well, I think I've seen enough here anyway. Let's head back, Erika. Sure. Beaufort says the Flintstones was originally aimed at adults, but then they shifted it towards being a family show, and when they did that, they had Fred quit smoking and dropped their beer and cigarette sponsors, so cartoons for adults are as old as cartoons themselves. Yeah, and even, like, cartoons like Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny was not originally aimed at kids, to my understanding. I'm really not sure where the stereotype of cartoons being for kids began, because they didn't begin that way at all. Anyway, you're not going to leak anything, are you? Of course not. Now that I think about it, I totally could though. Oh, really? I have some connections and a potential audience. Now you're starting to sound like Sebastian had a point. Not really. I just know a few people from writing a column in our college magazine. It got popular enough that it was even featured in the local newspaper for a while. Interesting. What did you write about? Nothing special, really. It was just commentary about current events. I see. I guess you were pretty involved in your local community then. Not more than anyone else, I think. What's it like to actually live on campus? College in general is a pretty unique period of life, I'd say. Something I've noticed is that some people are not prepared for the independence they have when living on campus. You are given a chaotic schedule where you have nothing to do on some days, whereas on others you are kept busy with classes, homework, and other things that you have to do. With study buddies, roommates, and classmates, it's not really hard to make new friends. You also get to meet a lot of people who share similar interests from taking the same classes or being in the same clubs. And don't forget about the dorms, so all these people are always within reach, which can also be both good and bad. You can be tempted to hang out with friends when you should really be studying. For many people, it becomes the first taste of real freedom and independence. Some just handle it better than others, I suppose. And that can be a problem with team projects, for example. There's always someone who ends up never showing up and not doing any part of the work. For me, it's not really a problem since I actually enjoy what I'm doing here. I don't mind the homework, and sometimes I read up on subjects in advance so I don't get left behind. I've even corrected the professor once or twice during a lecture. I think that wouldn't be a good idea with certain kinds of professors. Well, with ours I was even allowed the privilege of giving a guest lecture for my own class once. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I was talking about. Well, I thought that sounded cool. Come on, lecturing should be fun. It certainly is for me. Admittedly, I am not actually the sort to like to get up in front of people to do a speech. I mean, I guess you could say that's part of the reason why I don't have a face cam. Part of the reason. I have multiple reasons. Another reason is I'm camera shy. Kiba says, had a 50-year-old roommate on campus before getting my own apartment. Well, that must have been an experience. Out of curiosity, was this roommate the sort of roommate who was trying to act all cool and hip in order to fit in? Anyway, I suppose being able to have that kind of attitude makes it a lot easier. Which attitude was that again? Learning should be fun. That attitude. Gotcha. Keeper says, no, he was fine, just there to finish school. Anyway, good attitude certainly does. Let's see if it keeps up once you have a few more semesters under your non-existent belt. Don't be so negative. And just for your information, I do have a belt at home. Besides, it's not as if I'm some sort of antisocial hermit who only focuses on his studies. I just know what to say no to my friends. That is a good thing to know how to do. Oh, really? Yes, We usually get together on the weekends and do some cooking together. People can only stand so much frozen food before they get sick of it, and eating out in the city can add up pretty quickly if you're not careful. I see. We rotate the cook every week, but apparently people are looking forward to when it's my turn. I've gotten a lot of compliments for my homemade mac and cheese. Now you're making me hungry. I bet they all miss it, but they'll get to taste it again once summer vacation is over in a month or so. Oh, I suddenly know what I want to cook this week. I hope it's not too late to put it on the menu. And in the meantime, you're just out here handing out flyers? Yep, it's good to help our college, and I can also save up a bit in the process. It's certainly easier than trying to juggle a job and homework at the same time later on if things get tight. What were you studying again? Psychology. I see. Alright, go ahead and analyze me right now. Oh, time for another minigame. It doesn't really work like that. I know, you just passed the test. Oh, I know what you're getting at. Maybe I'll steal that test from you, though. Might be worth trying it out on a few people I know. Be my guest. Darn, I thought we were about to have another sort of 20 questions sort of thing. On a more serious note, tell me something about what you're learning. What, anything? I just want to get an idea of the subject and whether it's comparable to our own understanding of psychology. I see. Kiba says, your character is a character of its own. If this gets a sequel, they need more dialogue inserts. I have noticed that, this hanging out has not had any options to choose any options. Well, I could tell you about an old and very simplified model of our psyche that we got taught in introductory classes. Sounds good. Okay, so this model divides our psychic apparatus into 3 distinct parts, called id, ego, and superego. The id represents our most basic desires and instinctual drives, that is, our physical needs and wants, like hunger and thirst, as well as desires and impulses. What's the difference? An impulse is more like wanting to lash out in anger, for example. The id seeks out immediate gratification for these urges. It is in conflict with the superego, which represents learned behavior like cultural and moral rules and societal standards, the kind of stuff we learn from our role models like parents, teachers, or guardians. The superego is the part that forms our conscious and controls our sense of right and wrong. It seeks to uphold these standards to perfection, which most of the time goes against what the id wants at any given moment. You sound like you had to rote learn a lot of this. If those internalized roles are broken, this misbehavior is punished by the superego with feelings of guilt and shame. This way, we are compelled to behave in accordance to these rules, even if the id tempts us to do otherwise. I feel like a lot of people nowadays are not listening to the superego. And in between these two conflicting parts of us, there is the ego who is trying to mediate. It represents our rational mind that seeks to please the id's drives in a way that doesn't harm us or goes against the superego's goals. However, it also serves another master, the external world. The ego includes all our decision-making and how we respond to external stimuli. Ultimately, it is the one calling the shots while trying to balance the needs of the id, the superego, and the external world. And there you have it, an outdated, simplified model of our psyche. It still serves as a good introduction, though. Thank you. Actually, I think I may have heard about something like this before. Why did you go with psychology in particular? I'm just interested in how people work, I suppose. It's also an incredibly diverse subject, and so are the potential jobs. Just being able to understand people is such a huge factor in many fields, and the skills you learn can come in handy in all areas of life, really. When people hear about psychology, most usually think of psychologists or psychotherapists, but they can also be counselors or communities and organizations, researchers or teachers. You also often see them teaming up with other professionals to influence every part of society. Just think about hospitals, courtrooms, prisons, even schools and universities. They can also become coaches for high-performance jobs where they work with CEOs, athletes, and performers of all kinds. Every institution and every business that works with people can profit from the presence of someone who has studied psychology. That's why you'll also find this kind of knowledge to be incredibly helpful even when you are a manager or in sales, because those jobs require empathy and an understanding of your clients' needs. More managers need empathy. Understanding people is just something that can come in handy pretty much wherever you go, and that's what psychology is all about. Even in video games, psychology is a factor. Horror games are an obvious example, but also with tutorials or UI design and how people interact with your game. Psychology and player expectations are always going to be a factor. I think I get the idea. Out here, I think a lot could still be done to improve the image of the field, you know? What do you mean? There's a bit of a stigma to admitting that you need help, especially when you're doing fine physically. Yeah, I get that. For them, it's a sign of weakness, so in order to preserve their image, they hide everything away. But locking away those feelings doesn't solve the problem. If anything, it only makes it worse. For me, I have trouble asking for help sometimes because, well, there's shyness for one thing. I am shy about interacting with people. And also, I have difficulty understanding things sometimes. I don't want to look stupid. Hold on. Asking for help, right. Is that something you'd like to work with? Me? Honestly, I don't know if I could tackle a big issue like that. It's good for me that psychology is such a diverse field, because I'm not quite sure where I'm going with it yet, or what particular job I'd like to have after I'm done with my studies. I see. I think you still have plenty of time to figure that out. Yep. Before I came here for my summer job, I was interning at a psychotherapist's office for a month. I got to hear about some very interesting and also tragic cases. I thought I wanted to help people with issues like that, but sometimes it's pretty hard not to be affected too much by those stories, so I'm not sure if that's the right job for me. But you already like working with people, right? I don't know. Maybe interning there was a little too close to the sun for me. If you didn't, why would you be the one to hand out the flyers? It's just like you mentioned earlier. Psychology comes in handy with sales and similar jobs where you have to interact with people. Handing out flyers is pretty similar to that, don't you think? I guess. You seem to be doing well enough with that. You're helping to bring your college and people together, and in this way, you're helping both. And it's been a lot of fun, too. After all, I got to meet you and even got a glimpse of the portal. Who knows, maybe one of those people you handed a flyer will one day turn out to be famous for their work. Now, I think that's a little too idealistic, but I get your point. It doesn't always have to be about big problems. Little problems need solving too. Like what you're eating on the weekend. Yeah. What about you, though? What do you mean? Well, I don't want to pry, but we've been talking all this time, and you know a lot more about me now that I do. No, I'm not. Bleh. You know a lot more about me now than I do about you. Maybe you can't say anything about where you grew up or what you studied because it's top secret or whatever, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious. Well, I don't like talking about myself all that much, and I think there are some things that are better left unsaid. I like talking about myself. I just don't want to be rude and make it all about me. I see. But if you're curious, I guess it's only fair I share a few things as well. You know, it's been fun talking about college. I already got my degrees a while ago. It was interesting to go hunting for jobs with my unusual combination of degrees, but I thought that would open a few doors. But before I got anywhere, our world underwent a few changes that made a lot of jobs obsolete. It's been a rough time since then. Turns out those degrees came in handy after all, because in the end, they enabled me to come here. If I consider all the good and bad that's happened here since my arrival, it's been a vacation compared to home, and it looks like the vacation might come to an end soon. I don't know what's going to happen after that. I can only hope my visit here will have started something that will mean change for our world, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I shouldn't be such a downer, though. Sorry for bringing it up, but maybe that explains why I don't like talking about it. What's your professional opinion on this? Well, in my professional opinion as a flyer distributor, I'd recommend a generous application of hugs, but that's just me. You know what? I absolutely agree with this assertion. You look like you could need them. Go for it! He took a step forward, and I soon found myself being enveloped in the furry dragon's embrace. With him pulling me close, it felt like a giant furry blanket was all around me as the hairs tickled my exposed skin. So how do I get a hug from this random character and not Lorem? After a few seconds, we parted and he took a step back again. I hope things can be better for you in the future. I don't think I can do anything to help with that, though. I know, you prefer the little problems. It's getting dark. I should probably head out and look for a cave, or else I'll have to sleep in the streets. Yeah, that sun set pretty quickly there. Oh, so what are you talking about? Well, it seems like all the hostels are already full. Despite the vetting process for visitors, enough people got in to take all available short-term lodging spots in this town. Oh, really? Yep. Despite only a few people knowing your location, or that of the portal, journalists and tourists are flocking to the towns, hoping to catch a glimpse, or at least find a clue of your whereabouts. That only leaves me with the option of finding or renting a cave for the night, or sleeping in the streets. Well, that's an interesting difference in this dragon world. People can rent caves to sleep in. Not that I mind sleeping in a cave, but for someone like me, it's usually something for an adventurous weekend rather than a way of life. And rocks don't exactly make for the best bedding. You can sleep here. Really? Yeah, there's plenty of room here, and it's kinda my fault that you couldn't find another place anyway. I guess that means you don't share the officer's suspicions about me being a spy, then. Not really. You know, I could totally take this room apart while you're sleeping. You're not helping your case there. Besides, you won't really find anything special here. Hey, I'd keep an eye on that copy of Draconic Desire you've got on the shelf there. I might be tempted to snatch it when you're not looking. Like I'd mind. If you need something for bedtime reading, feel free to help yourself. Oh, I will. Achievement unlocked. The Student. You met with Kevin and learned a lot about city and college life. Congratulations! Seriously, how did I not get an opportunity like this with Lorem? Okay, I'll probably wind up going a little over time, but I am not quitting the game knowing that I am right near the end of this run. Buford says, at least you got to hug a floofer. Well, yeah, that's true. It was the only floofy dragon that I've met so far. In a way, I got to hug a real-life furry. After a night of turbulent dreams, my consciousness returned to the shores of the waking world. Today is the day of the big fireworks. Who shall I bring? Lorem, of course. Let's see if things play a bit differently now that I've given him that Ixoman sphere. It's time to go. Oh, I still have Ipsum's Ixoman sphere. I could give it to Lorem when I meet with them. I'm surprised Lorem didn't take it home. Well, yeah, I'm taking the sphere. The sooner Ipsum gets it, the better. I mean, that's like the key difference between Lorem's bad ending and the good ending I'm working towards, so I'm definitely taking it. I took the spear and put it in one of my pockets before I headed out to meet Lorem. After a few minutes of walking, I arrived at a rather empty-looking area near the edge of town. Hey, Lorem. Hey, Erika. You were right. This will be much better than mingling with the crowds. I can do without all the extra noise and screaming. Yeah. So, what are we going to do now? Wait. Oh, I also brought Ipsum's sphere. Maybe you can finally find its way home. Great! Would you mind holding on to it, though? I don't really have a bag or anything to put it in right now. That's alright. Just remind me to give it to you later. Sure. I think it's starting. Look! We were quiet as we waited, and the stillness of the night enveloped us. Soon I heard the sound of the first rocket making its way into the night sky, after which it exploded into a pattern of colors. More rockets followed, their thunderous noise echoing throughout the land. Suddenly, a terrible realization hit me. Considering how public of an event this was, and how I was told multiple times that everyone would be watching the fireworks, now would be the best time for Reza to do anything he planned to do. Not only was the village basically deserted, but the sounds of the fireworks would also overshadow any gunshots, giving him as much security as he would ever have. As the portal had been repaired by the mysterious person I met, Now was the perfect time for Reza to make his getaway, and I was the only one who knew. Lorem, I think we need to go, now. What's going on? I know where Reza is. Really? We need to stop him. We? What do you think I can do? He's twice as big as I am, and let's not forget about his weapon. I can try to hold him off. You go and get help. Alright. Wait a minute. Give me the spear. I was about to say, having the spear on hand would make things easier for getting help. Pretty sure it can make phone calls. There you go. I watched as Lorem took the spear from my hands and slid their fingers over its interface in a peculiar way. After a few seconds, they were done and the spear was back in my hands. It might not help you much, but if something goes wrong, just throw it at him. Alright. Where is he anyway? The underground building. Let's go. I arrived at the portal just a few minutes later. I couldn't help but be glad that it was still turned off and didn't appear to have been used recently, but it meant Reza was still here somewhere. I looked around thinking about where he could be, or if it was worth waiting for him here, when I saw something out the corner of my eye. There was a suitcase leaning against the portal. When I opened it to check on its contents, I was surprised to find a few eggs inside. I had no doubt that this was Reza's doing. Come to think of it, the administrator did not steal more eggs. So, this is definitely Reza being on the murderer spree this time. Apparently, he had broken into the hatchery again, stashing the eggs here. But he hadn't used the portal just yet. Why? Given that he hadn't left yet, he clearly still has some unfinished business in the area. The underground building. The administrator had told me all about the prowess of the generators within. It probably hadn't been hard for Reza to guess the same, or to try stealing them from a place he knew would be even more deserted than the rest of the village was right now. He also didn't have far to go from the portal. All things considered, it was the only option that made sense to me. I could have waited for Reza here, but in the end, I decided it would be better to meet him underground. If there was going to be a confrontation, I was sure I would have the advantage in a more crowded space. Even in the darkness, it was easy for me to spot the site where they had unearthed the building's entry, as it was in a roped-off area that I had seen from afar before. When I entered the building, I was met by a long illuminated hallway that was lined with doors on both sides. Getting a little tongue-tied because I'm rushing through repeated dialogue. Since the lights were already on, Reza had to be very close. I was surprised at the building still having electricity, since generators were also powered by powering the portal. Suddenly, one of the doors opened, and out came Reza carrying a large cardboard box. When he spotted me, he sat down on the ground. Erika, you're here? I don't know how glad I am to see you. Or you don't know how glad I am to see you. I've wanted to talk with you for so long. I even tried to contact you, but I couldn't with someone tailing you the whole time. But talking can wait. Now that you're here, we've got everything. Come on, help me with this, and let's get out of here. No. No? What are you talking about? I'm not doing anything until you answer a few questions. Want to talk now? Sure, why not? We probably got a few hours if we wanted to. None of them will disturb us here. We could even get the backup generator as well after we send this one over. You know what? I'm not having this conversation with you again. What are you talking about? Your plan, Reza. I know all about it. Great! Then stop wasting time and help me with this. I'm not here to help you. This is where it ends. What is your problem, Erika? You know about the comet, so we can't stay here. Just shut up, Reza. I'm not in the mood to talk with you anymore. I don't need to, because your friend has just arrived. Wait, back a bit. Don't need to because your friend has just arrived. Which friend? Suddenly, Maverick and Lorem appeared next to me. You planned this, didn't you, Erika? Traitor! He pulled out his gun, not sure which one of us he should be aiming at. Beaver says, my mom asked me what game I was watching and what it was about, and it was kind of embarrassing to explain that it had some dating simulator elements. She seemed really interested in the game until I mentioned the dating aspect, since she likes just about anything where dragons are the good guys. Out of curiosity, is she still there? If so, hi, Beer Force's mom! I take it, though, that she's not really interested in dating games. Just let me go, and I'll forget this thing ever happened. You've got 6 bullets for 3 people. Do you think you can really do that, Reza? Do you think this is worth risking your life for? I've been risking my life for this every day for the last 2 weeks. What did you do during that time? Sip champagne in your nice apartment? Besides, this generator and the whole building came from our time. They belong to humanity. Suddenly, the administrator came out from the shadows in the hallway behind Reza. I am curious if it's the administrator we know, or if it's future me. No, they belong to me. Confused, Reza spun around, aiming his gun at the newcomer who was slowly walking towards him. Who the bleep are you? Freeze, I said freeze. Want to waste your bullets on me? Feel free. You can't stop all of us. If you say so. Kind of think of it, with all the time-traveling shenanigans going on, you think the administrator knows that they get shot? I wonder if they're wearing a bulletproof vest. Okay, it's the same administrator as usual. So what happened to me going back in time with the administrator's disguise? First instinct was to run away, but as Maverick and Lorem started trudging, so did I. Reza was quick with his aim and shot at Maverick until he went down. We know that Lorem doesn't actually get shot. Lorem took flight with a few beats of their wings and was about to collide with Reza, but at the last moment, Reza got out of the way and hit Lorem with a well-aimed kick. Okay, at this point I need to throw the orb thing. Lorem collided roughly with the wall and fell to the ground. Remembering Lorem's words, I took the spear and threw it towards Reza as hard as I could. At first it looked as though it was going to miss, but the spear adjusted its path and flew straight towards him. Reza aimed at me, but the spear hit him before he could pull the trigger. He lost his balance and stumbled backwards before he fell to the ground. As he got up, I saw that the barrel of his gun was now bent out of shape. When he realized this, he bolted towards the exit. I tried to stop him, but he hit me in the face with the gun's blunt end and ran past me. It took a few seconds until I composed myself and ran after him. Yay! The place didn't blow up! Maybe now we can save the world. As I went up the hill, I saw that Reza was already taking his place while the portal did its starting routine. Not entirely sure where he's going to escape to, because we've already learned on the second run that the portal is no longer programmed to take him back to the future. Also, I ran up to the console and entered a few commands. Reza turned around and saw me. What are you doing? Reza walked off the platform, but I quickly ran around the console and threw my weight against him, just in time for the portal to start teleporting us. Wait, what? Lorem lived to tell the police what had transpired in the underground building. I guess that's Lorem's good ending. He didn't get blown up. The conversation they had overheard was enough for the dragons to find out about the comet, and with the help of the portal's power source, they were able to divert it. Yay! That's true, Maddie. I also didn't get shot this time. But I was hoping for an opportunity to hang out with Lorem. As neither humanity nor the dragons knew where Reza and I ended up, our visit was considered a failure. Humanity had decided that if our visit did not yield any results, they would no longer try their luck with the portal and instead use their remaining energy to hold on as long as they still could. For the dragons, life went on as usual. But for our city, this outcome meant they had to continue their fight on their own. It was an uphill battle that was eventually lost when the city ran out of resources and fell. So B4 says, the game doesn't know what order you will do the endings in. In the previous ending, you knew the administrator's name was Izumi, despite that being something you learn in Remy's bad ending, which is part of why I recommend players go for that ending first. Before says, well, at least you were able to save one world in this ending. True. But we're still pretty far from what I would consider a good ending. Yeah, I'm pretty much invested in this game at this point. We're going to see this through all the way to the end. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to meet up with all the side characters and get their gallery items along the way. I assume that I now have a gallery item for Kevin. I assume the remaining 2 secret gallery items are going to be for Vera and Emera, since you said that it's possible to hang out with Emera. It's just a question of how do I get to hang out with them. I'm going to once again put priority on Vera on the next run, so hopefully you can find out from me what I need to do in order to help Vera. I also will probably focus on a Dean on the next run. Oh hey, post-credits scene. We reappeared on the other side and collapsed to the ground. It was the day of my arrival in the dragon's world, just as I had planned. What the bleep is going on here? Oh, look at what the cat dragged in. You're supposed to be dead. Am I now? You're right. But today is not the day. She held up Reza's head and punched him. His body instantly went limp as he fell unconscious. That is slightly satisfactory. Good job, Erika. Oh, is that yours? She pointed at an object on the ground behind me. When I turned around, I realized that it was the Ixamen Spear. Whatever setting Lorem activated had apparently prompted it to follow us, even through the portal. Not exactly. You better hold on to it regardless. Those things are expensive. She walked over to Riza's lower half and started lifting him by the legs. Come on and help me with this. We've got a long night ahead of us. Achievement unlocked. The plan. You have seen Lorem's good ending. Up! Up! Yay! Also yay. Gallery time! Lorem first. Yay! Oh my goodness, he's so freaking adorable! Dang it, I better have an opportunity to hug him in the best ending. As for Kevin... Oh, I like this image. I absolutely want to hang out at an arcade with dragons now. Even if I have to turn into a dragon and be one of the kind of dragons that do not have thumbs, I'm going to go to the arcade. I wonder if there's a specific order or a rhyme or reason to the order of these character portraits. Probably. Maybe not. No, I miscounted. At first I thought there were only... Whatever, it'll be too confusing if I explain. So, let's see here. I'm just being confused. Anyway, we got 5 portraits for the main 5. We're going to have, I assume, actually, possibly 6 portraits for side characters, and 1 portrait for the best ending. So there might be another character that I have not met yet. Unless one of these is supposed to be for Maverick. Medi wants to see Sebastian's? Sure. Here you go. Sebastian's is very much a pinup. Okay, Beerforce says there's 5 main dragons and 5 one-off meetings. So there's 2 characters I have not met up with yet. So then I wonder what these 2 are. Oh, I hope one of them isn't for the bad ending. If it's for the bad ending, no, I'm not getting it. The evil ending, that is. Anyway, like I said, for the next run, I want to make sure to help out Vera. I tried to do that this run and couldn't, so I'm making that a priority on the next run. And Beerforce says, I think for Vera, you have to focus on Remy's path. Well, in that case, next run, I'm also going to hang out with Remy. I also understand that Remy's is the most complicated in order to get his best ending, so I hope you'll be able to help me out with that, getting that ending, Beerforce. If there's any chance that you won't be able to make a stream and help me out, you can send me a message with some spoiler-free instructions on things I need to do for both Remy and Vera. With that said, we are done for today. If you've enjoyed today's stream, feel free to give me a follow. I stream this every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Except this Saturday. This Saturday is Christmas. Oh, I apparently need to do Adine's first 2 dates to get Remy's good ending too. Alright, I will keep that in mind. Anyway, let's see here. Anybody to raid? Nobody to raid. So I will simply say thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.